Sheila here with Creative Aging. Today we are going to do some more watercolor painting. Just to refresh you on what we did last time, we practiced watercolor sunsets and we learned how to use the big brush and just do background and slowly back and forth using a lot of water, more water, so that these colors gradually blend into one another. Okay, and so like right here, taking the orange and going up into the yellow to mix it, and then going back down to where the yellow goes into the orange. Okay, and then we switched our brush orientation on the water part. You can see where I switched my brush to give it a little bit of a water reflection. Same here. And then to take away, because you can't paint white with watercolor, you have to take color away. So you're gonna switch, you need a smaller brush. Any small brush you do, I know everybody kind of has limited supplies, so this is just good practice, just one big brush and a small brush of your choice. If you have a lot of options, then just bring out all your brushes, and this is good chance to play and learn some watercolor. So remember to lift. You're gonna paint with just water. Okay, so painting here with just water and then dab it away with a paper towel. And that's how I got the light in the sky up there. All right, so lifted that, and then I lifted some clouds away, and then I took color down here away and then filled it in with yellow. So if you did not watch the last video, make sure to watch that one first. Today we're gonna add to this, and we're gonna do more landscape, but we're gonna use a different technique with the brushes. So we're gonna use more movement. So you can see the difference. This has got a lot of smooth lines. These two are gonna have a lot more movement. So we're gonna continue using our brushes and lifting color and putting color back in. But we're gonna add a lot more motion. So I am using this brand of watercolor paper. I really like this brand, and it's cheap, but it's the best quality for the, the less expensive paper. And since I primarily work with senior adults, I found that this watercolor set is by far my favorite. Some of the watercolor sets, they're too small, and so for senior adults, it's very hard for them to see, especially, the difference between the purples and the blacks. Some of the sets, it's really tough. So I don't even have one to show you to compare to, but I love this one. You can see the circles are really big, the colors are really obvious. So just everything you can do to make it easier on senior adults, I recommend doing if you're working with that population. You don't want them to get confused, or you don't want them to get frustrated, and if they use a black and they think it's a purple or a blue, they're going to be pretty upset, because that's harder to take it away. So yes, I definitely am a fan of this brand. And so I have a couple sets, a bigger one and a smaller one. I'm gonna use the smaller one today just because I like to, force myself to do more mixing. And I think a lot of people that are watching this are gonna have this set. So we delivered supplies this week to all of our senior living facilities. So they have these supplies already, and they're gonna be able to practice this along with us while we're all in quarantine. Let me move my camera and get started. Now, as always, you can, of course, change these colors, and you can change to do whatever landscape you'd like to do. I'm gonna do something like this, just to show you technique on how to move the color around and how to kind of blend with the brush while you're moving it. So it's just a little bit different than what we did last time. It's gonna be a lot brighter colors, a lot more paint, and a little less water. Last time we did more of a wash. And of course, if you don't want to do the water, then switch it to an easy, mountainscape or green grass. So these are really easy to, switch the orientation or the, if you know, depending on which direction you want it to go, or once you know how to do the sky and then you do your foreground, you can do mountains, you can do grass, you can do water. It's totally up to you. So to start though, you want to think about how you're going to break your paper up. So both of these, I kind of did a rule of thirds, which, you know, with a lot of landscapes and photography or painting, they break the landscape up within 1/3 of the paper. So both of these, the horizon line is up from the bottom about 1/3 of the way up. Same with this one. So composition wise, this is a really good way to start. It's, you know, pleasing to the eye, and it always makes for an interesting image. So let's just break our page up. Figure out whether you're doing mountains or water. The bottom third of your paper is going to be the foreground, and then the rest is going to be the sky, because we want to work in the sky so that we can play with the movement and play with the paint. So this is really going to help you in our further watercolor activities, just how to use the brush, how to use the water. Watercolor is very different, and sometimes it's tricky for people to get used to because they are so used to oils or acrylics. So this kind of forces you to play with the water and make it work to your benefit versus getting kind of frustrated. I've seen a lot of students, they get frustrated with watercolor because they didn't have basic classes. And so these are really going to help us later on. Okay, so make sure when you have your set, depending on, you know, if you use your set today, you may not need as much water, but if it's been a while since you've used your watercolors, you make sure to put some water in the color that you're going to start with, because these are going to be really dry. So you want to start with more water. So I'll use this purple blue in this corner. And of course, you're probably not going to have the same set as me, so you just, you know, use some sort of blue or some sort of purple, and you can mix colors, of course. So see how I started by putting water in it to just kind of get it started, because you don't want to, with watercolor, you'd rather build up to where it gets darker. You do not want to start dark. It's harder to lift the color away than it is to add color. So you want to work from the lightest to the darkest in watercolor painting. So more water to start, and then you can figure out exactly what you want to do with it. If you get too dark, it can be frustrating because you're going to be using your paper towel to try to lift some of it away. And certain colors like the purple, blacks, and browns, and even this dark burgundy, they don't lift very well. And so it's just better to start light. So now, the last time we started and we went side to side, I want you to just change the brush strokes, and I want you to just kind of tap. We're just going to tap and move that color around. And this is going to give your landscape and your sky a different look. It's going to look cloudy and windy and maybe stormy. And so see how puddles of water are piling right there? Well, when that dries, that actually might look really cool, like a natural cloud. So, and then if you want to switch colors, rinse your brush always when you're switching colors, and say I want to use this pink. Okay, so still a lot of water. And I'm going to just dot it and move it around, and see, I'm going over the blue because it's going to create its own color. So a lot of this is going to be experimenting. You know, this example that we're doing together is probably not going to look exactly like the one that I just showed you, which that's what's fun, because that's how you learn best in art, is by experimenting and playing and just figuring out what you want to do. And it's more relaxing. It doesn't have to be a certain way. You know, just kind of move the color, and if you don't like something, you know, if there's a color that you're not liking, you can always dab it and lighten it. Okay, so see how I have the paper towel? I did this last time. I like to curl it up in my hand so that I have a good edge. And so you can use your paper towel during too. And so see the edges right here, if I want to make them look a little more cloudy. Okay, so let's keep going. So let's switch colors again. Think about where your sun might be. So in your sunset, is your sun going to be in the corner? Is it going to be in the middle? You know, maybe the sun is really just setting over your horizon line. So I'll do that. So I will do the sun kind of in the middle. So let's switch to yellow. Maybe add some yellow and oranges. So clean your brush. Switch to the yellow. Make sure your yellow is really clean. Yellows get dirty pretty fast, and so if it's not clean, wet it down and then dab it with a paper towel. Like that. Okay, so it's pretty clean. But you can do that a few times. So right here, so I'm going back, I'm going into the pink a little bit. So it's kind of dotting, just dotting and moving your brush. So circle motions or dotting it, it's going to give it a different look. And let's add some orange just to make the pink and the yellow a really nice graduation. Let's add a little bit of orange. See how it looks. And remember, watercolors will always dry lighter. So if it's dark in a certain area, it will lighten up just a little bit. But if it's not going to lighten up a whole bunch. So if you didn't like how dark that is, you can always put water on it and dab it away to lighten it yourself. Let's go some dark blues over here. So dark blue can get dark really fast, so use a lot of water. And remember, this yellow and this blue is gonna make a green. So do not get yellow and blue, don't mix them together, be very careful of that. That's, you know, just think of your color blending. There's certain colors you do not want in the sky, and I think green is one of them. Unless the Northern Lights is, you know, if you're doing Northern Lights maybe. So I'm just going to add dark blue in the corner. Maybe some purple. I'd like some purple over here too. So this is where you can play. Now let me hold this up. So I'm gonna, okay, so let me hold this up, and this is how it's looking. Well, that's too much right there. Let's dab that away. So let's create some clouds. Just gonna move my paper towel, use it to get a little color lifted. Now, remember, do not rub it back and forth. You're going to tear your paper and upset it, so just lightly dab. And if that is still too much color, you can always put more water on it and fade it that way. So I'll just show you really quick. If I wanted to lighten right there, I can use just water. And say I want to bring some color down, I can just move it. And I can also dab it away completely. This is colorful. It's kind of pretty. I think I want more blues though. So I'm gonna go either for a dark blue or light blue. Go back to my blue, it has a lot of water in it. Same thing. I'm gonna do blue over this purple, kind of give it some new colors. And remember right here, it might get green, so be careful. So I'm not letting those touch each other. Maybe a little more pink up there. You could even do red if you wanted, or more orange. Totally could try some orange, actually. And if you wanted to do pink too, you could do pink. So see how it kind of created its own shade of orange red? So I'm just gonna drag this down into the yellow. Pink would be nice right here because pink will mix well with the yellow and pink will also mix well with the blue and kind of give it a purple. So let's try that. So, see how much water I had? It's already spreading out. I'm going to dab some of this away because I don't want it quite that dark. But I love the purple it's making over here, so I'm going to continue. So, see, I was dotting. Now I'm moving it around. Just play with your brush. Just figure out how you want it to look. Give it some clouds. Take it away. Take some of that away. Right there, I'm gonna fade this a little because that's too obvious how I used it. It just looked like a paintbrush square, so I wanted to blend that to where it doesn't look awkward. Okay, see how it's coming together? Figure out what color you want there. Might do let's do the lightest blue I have. And sometimes if you want to check your water or what your brush looks like, you can dab it on your paper towel to make sure that there's not too much color in your brush. If there is a lot of color in your brush, make sure to switch to a clean water or just go rinse your brush out and clean it. Especially when you go lighter. So right now I'm going lighter to a light blue. So I definitely did not want to have a dirty brush because it would muddy it pretty fast. Okay, so let's do some light blue here. I'm gonna go ahead and blend that up into the purple. Maybe into that little pink. Actually, that looks really pretty in the pink. So, see how I just added light blue right there? Okay. So we're getting a lot of movement in the sky. Now let's think about what we want down here. If you want water, we did that last time. So remember how we did the water. We used the blue and started and we went back and forth. And remember you turned your brush. So we turned the brush to where it was kind of choppy brush strokes. So how you use your brush really matters. Everything you do with watercolor, every little thing, you're going to be able to see it. So definitely be mindful of how you're using your brush. If you want smooth water, if you want it to look really windy, stormy, you're not gonna maybe go smoothly back and forth. You're gonna use a lot more movement like we did in the sky. So let's go ahead and do that. If you would like to try more of like a grassy mountainscape, that's just using a lot of green and maybe some purples in the mountains, and so it's not going to be that much different. It's just different colors. But let's go ahead and do the water. And so I'm going to use a lot of dark blues and purples. And I'm going to start at the bottom. And remember to switch your brush. So on this part, I wanted it to be a little darker. So I still used a lot of water, but the dark blue, it just gets dark pretty fast. And then I didn't use as much water as up in the clouds because I didn't want that to be the darkest. But if the sun is setting, the sky would be lighter anyways, and it'd kind of make the water seem like it's getting nighttime. So maybe right in here I'll switch to a purple. Okay, and remember, kind of see how I'm going choppy, but it got too purple, so I'm dragging that to where it just blends slightly into the blue. And then let's go ahead and draw a good horizon line. So just draw that in straight across. And drag that purple down. So I'm going back and forth. Just be patient. No need to rush this. And if it's the horizon line is going to be the darkest point since it's further away in the distance. Same with the mountains. If you're doing mountains, it's going to get darker as the perspective is further away in the distance. So even if it's just very subtle, this just gives it the illusion that the water is further away. Makes it look more natural. So it doesn't have to be really dramatic. It can just be a little bit darker. So now, maybe let's lift some color. So go back to your small brush. And it can be any, honestly, it can be any size. I don't want you to feel stressed out if you don't have that kind of brush. It doesn't matter. This would work as well. So really anything that's just smaller. Let's use your clean water right now, and because we're gonna lift color. It's kind of like how this is your eraser for watercolor painting. And take your small brush and just wherever you want less color, draw with water. Just say I want less color right there. I just drew a little water, and now I'm gonna dab it away. And I didn't do a lot. I don't want this to be too obvious. Hopefully you can see right there. Just made it a little lighter. I can do that process again if I'd like. So let's take a little more color out, maybe right in the middle. So where the sun's gonna be, it might be lighter right under here. So let's take quite a bit of this blue out right down here. Okay, so now the more movement of this brush, the more I'm taking color away. So if you want it to be really subtle, just do this a couple times. If you want a lot more taken away, you can move that water around quite a bit. Dab. And then if you want to make that a little more gradual, you can do the same thing on the side so it doesn't look kind of like a big lighter square. So do the same thing and just keep lifting. And so you can, at this point, I want you to look at your painting and figure out what you want. Is the sky, is there too much movement? Is there anything standing out? So a good rule is to always take your art, like in the middle while you're working on it, take your art, hold it away from your face, you know, figure out what you like and what you don't like. Really sit there and take time. Make sure to get it away from your face, hold it a foot away, and really look at it and see where your eye's getting stuck. If your eye is getting stuck somewhere in your artwork, that means that there's something wrong. Because with a good painting or any kind of good artwork, your eye should be naturally moving. You want your piece to have the viewer look at every single piece of the paper. So if your eye's getting stuck in one area, if it's stuck right there, then maybe that's too dark and maybe you need to soften it. If you're staring at one spot of your painting, it probably means something's off balance and it's making you uncomfortable, and I want you to look at it and really figure out what it is and try to change it. But if you're looking at all of it, so say you're looking at this and you're like, wow, and you're traveling through the clouds and your eyes just naturally, figure out where your eye's naturally going. If it's traveling through all of these colors in the clouds and going to the water and looking at the reflection, then it's doing what it should be doing. Art should make you look at every single piece of that paper. It should not, your eyes shouldn't be getting stuck. And if you ever go into an art gallery or if you look at something on your wall and your eye's getting stuck, you're probably not going to like that painting or picture, or it could be a pattern on a t-shirt. It could be anything. That means that there's something that's not sitting right with you. So if you like what you see, or if you love what you see, then maybe you could be done. If there's an area your eye is getting caught on, then work on it some more. So at this point, think of, if you want to lighten up. So say you want to lighten up where a sun would be. Let's go ahead and do that with our small brush. So say right here, I really want it to be the lightest part because the sun is about to set. So it might be really light. So I'm going to lift color again. And so I held it there for a minute to make sure that I got all the water up, because at this point you do not want this yellow to run into your blue. Be really hard to fix. Watercolor isn't as forgiving as some of the other mediums, because you can't just paint over it. If I messed the sun up and added blue and it turned green, it's pretty hard to fix. So that is one thing people get frustrated with watercolor, because with acrylics, if you don't like something, you paint over it. Watercolor, you have to be a little creative. Sometimes you just have to start over, to be honest. But you just have to be patient and careful. So be mindful. So I'm doing that process again. See if I can lift a little bit more color. So I'm moving the brush around quite a bit. And then make sure you're moving your paper towel to where you're using clean edges only, because at this point you probably have quite a bit of color on your paper towel since you've been lifting quite a bit up. And so right there, if I used the same edge that I'd used in the sky, my sun would be purple right now. So you really have to think about all of these things. So I moved it and I turned it inside out and made sure to use a very clean edge, clean dry edge. I use the same paper towel just because I don't like to waste things. there's no point. So if you just think about everything you do and just make sure you're not using the same dirty spot, because you don't want to, I mean, if you did get purple in your sun, you could just make it, you know, more of a purple sky. To be honest, I think that's how I got this one. I'll go back to this one. This was probably a mess up. I didn't totally want that purple of a sky, but I made it work because I couldn't lift it away, so I just made the whole thing darker. So you can make your mistakes work for you. That's fine. All right, so we lifted a little bit more color. And it does look like a really natural sunset. And so now that you know the process, you know, feel free to maybe do a couple if you wanted. Or if you don't like these colors, please do change the colors, do whatever that would make you happy. This is your painting. I'm not hanging it in my house, so I hope you do whatever you think would be pretty in your home or as a gift. So yeah, we want you to like the artwork. And so now that I've showed you the technique, I'm gonna show you this one just so you can kind of see how I did that. This is more blue. I didn't use a lot of color in this sky. This is a lot of blues and purples, but it's using the same technique as far as a lot of water and circle motion, moving the paint around and letting the water just settle in some spots, which lightens it. So it made it naturally look like clouds, just some of the water puddles that, you know, made their own shapes. So just moving that water, circles and tapping. This has got a little hint of the light purple to give it a little bit more movement and texture in the sky. So this is the light blue and the light purple and a little bit of dark blue down at the bottom. But it's the exact same technique. And then after you get the sky the way you want, and if you want to lift, you know, take clouds away during the process. So moving the color, moving the water, then lifting. Just think about where you want some clouds. Then down here, that was using green. Back and forth. You can tell it's smooth. A little bit of back and forth. Okay, going up and down, and there's a little bit of brown. Not much brown. That brown will get dark really fast. Be very careful with your browns and your purples. So you might want to test a brown before you actually paint until you get really used to watercolors, because that can turn muddy really fast. So that's just a little bit of brown, blend it in, and then that's just a lot of purple. But see how dark it gets at the horizon line? Same as in the other sunset painting. So yeah, practice with this technique. Hopefully you enjoy it and think that it's relaxing and a good little escape for today. Next time we're going to be doing bookmarks. We're going to continue watercolor painting, but we're also going to use a Sharpie ink pen. And so we're going to mix mediums. And yes, I hope you enjoy. See you next time.